Hello everyone, welcome back to Code with Cougar. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a WinForm application or Windows Form application using Visual Studio 2022. So open up your Visual Studio 2022 and create a new project. So basically a WinForm is that we're going to create a GUI, basic GUI application using C# and Visual Studio. So in this drop down, please select the language that you're going to use. So we're going to use C#. And in this drop down we're going to select Windows, and from this drop down we are going to select desktop. So we're going to make a simple desktop WinForm application, and we are going to select Windows Form ASP.NET. Once we select this filter, so a filter window pop up that show us a lot of different options. We can create different type of application. For example, we can create a WPF application. We can create class libraries for WPF. We can create WPF.NET framework, but for this video we're going to select Windows Form application.NET framework. Click on that, click on next. Here it's gonna ask us to enter a name for our project, so I'm gonna give it like Cougar. Let's call it just Cougar. We can browse the location of our project, so I'm gonna select desktop as the destination location for my project. So this is going to be the solution. Visual Studio will create a solution same as our project name. So as we know, a solution is like a container that contains multiple different type of projects. If we hover over this I button, it says that a solution is a container for one or more project in Visual Studio. So basically, as our application grows, we might have different type of projects specific for a specific task, and different projects can be contained under one solution. Once we double click on the solution, all the projects will open in Visual Studio and we can run all the project at once. So let's create a project. It's going to create our first WinForm application. This is our WinForm application, and if you guys don't see the toolbox menu here, you can go to view, and here you can find the toolbox. Let's find the toolbox here. It's going to show it back. For some Visual Studios it may not show the toolbox, or it is here. You can click on that and click on this pin button, so it's gonna pin the toolbox here. So this is our WinForm or Windows Form application. This is going to be the display or the windows that is going to be displayed. If we run our project right now, it's gonna display a white window, something like this. So same as other project, we will have program.cs where we can write our codes, and also we have the form1.cs. So if we are not able to see this window here, we can right click on this form1.cs and we can click on view designer. So it's gonna display this window. So let's create a simple Windows application that takes user's first name, last name, and age, and display the user first name, last name, and age. So let's put a label here. Let's put 3 labels from our toolbox. So for label 1, let's rename the properties. If we click any element in the window, so the property of that element will be shown here. So we clicked on the label 1. The label 1 property will be displayed here, so we can change the different properties of label 1. So for this video, we are going to change the text property of label 1. We want it to display, instead of label 1, we want to display name or first name colon. So it's gonna display first name, and it's a better coding practice to rename the label name also. So by default, Visual Studio will name this label as label 1, so we don't want that. So to make it more clear, we call it LBL or label first name F name. Click on this label 2. For the name property, we are going to give it LBL last name or L name, last name. And for the text property, to be displayed on our window, we can give for example last name. Okay, label 3 is going to be age. So for the text property we are going to give age, and the name property we're going to call it LBL age so that we can access LBL age in our code. Let's put three text box also. Let's find the text boxes. Okay, here we have text boxes so that we can take the user's input. I'm gonna put three text boxes here. Okay, let me put it a little bit closer. Let me resize the text boxes. Okay, same as labels, we can click on the text box, and in the property window we can change the properties of this element. So right now our text box is called text box 1, and this is going to be called text box 2, text box 3. So it will be confusing if we wanted to access this text box in our codes. So it's a better coding practice to always rename this text box name property. So we are going to call it TB or text box first name, so that we can always access this text box by this name. Let's rename this other text box by text box last name or L name, and this is gonna be text box age, TB age. Okay, let's resize our window. Next, if we wanted to our text box to as we resize our window right now, the text box size doesn't change. So if we wanted to change the size of the text box along the window, so we can change another property of the text box. Click on that, find the anchor property under the layout here, so we can see if it is anchored by the top and left. So we want it to be anchored on this right side also. Click on that. So right now once we resize our window, so this will the size of the text box also be resized. Let me layout, cancel this again. Let me put my window a little bit smaller, this much, so a little bit more smaller. So once I resize my window, if I run my project here, this window will pop up, and if I wanted to resize the window so that the size of the text boxes doesn't change. If you guys don't want that and you want the size of the text boxes to go along with the window size, you can change the anchor property of the text box. So let me change the anchor property. We can come under the layout, anchor. So we want the right side. We want the right side for this guy also. Let me anchor the right side for this text box also. Right now, when we resize our window, the text boxes shrink and extend alongside the window size. So let's put two buttons here, button 1, and let's put button 2. Once we click on button 1, we can see that the name of the button by default is button 1. So we don't want that name. We want to call it, so suppose this button is, we want to display the user name, last name, and age. So we want to call this button as display. Okay. And we want to rename the button also so that we can use it, access this button by this name, btn or button display. Let's call this button clear once the user click on this button, so every field should be cleared. Let's call it btn clear, and the text property should display instead of button 2, it should display clear. Okay, cool. So we want another label here so that when the user click on display button, all the information of the user should be displayed here. let's display the user information in a label. Let's put it here and call this label. We don't want to touch the text property, the text property now. The name should be LBL display. So to write, so our design is, this is a simple design. Our design is complete. So once we run our project, we can see that this window will be displayed. So I didn't focus much on the design aspect of this project, since it's an introductory project. So you guys can work on that and make a better design for your display. So once the user click on that, so we want all the user information to be displayed in this label or here. So to write a code for this button, we just double click on this button. This window will pop up in the form1.cs. So private void btn display underscore click. So once the user click on that button, this function will be executed. So for this function, we want to take the text box first name dot text property, okay, dot text property, and we want to set it to display label. So we want to say LBL display dot text equal to, so the first name, then we want to give a white space in between, plus text box last name dot text property, plus a white space, then plus age. So text box age dot text. So what this line of code is going to do, it's going to take the value of the first name text box, the value of this last name text box, and the value of the age text box. It will concatenate all of them, putting white spaces in between, and assign this value to the text property of the label LBL display label. So if we go here, so our label is showing label 1. Once we click on this display button, it's going to show the first name, last name of the user. So let's run our project. Run your project. Code is on my first name, my last name is Cougar, my age is 24. If I click on display button, it's gonna show all the information here. So if I click on clear, nothing is gonna happen because we have not written any code for the clear button. To write a code for the clear button, we can double click on this clear, and the clear button method will open, and inside this method we can set all the text property of the fields to an empty string. Suppose we want text box first name dot text to equal to an empty string. Same case was with the text box last name dot text equal to empty string, and text box age dot text equal to empty string. And we want to set the label also, LBL display dot text equal to empty string. Let's run our project. So once, for the first time when we run our project, this label 1 display is shown here. So we don't want that, so we want to clear that as well. So let's put code with Cougar, and last name age is 24 display. If I press clear, it's going to clear everything. So if I right click on this or double click on the window, this form1 load function will open. So in this function, once the form is loaded or once we run our project, for the first time this function will be executed. So in this function we want to put the label display dot text equal to an empty string. So we don't want to label 1 to be displayed for the first time. As we can see, label 1 is not shown here. So if we enter some values here, display, these values are displayed here, clear, it's going to clear the window. So this was a simple WinForms application using C# in Visual Studio 2022. Hope you guys have learned something. Please don't forget to subscribe to Code with Cougar, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.